Hey, what's going on, guys? Late Bloomer here, coming at you with my experience in Palace of the Dead. Now, this is hours of footage being cut down to about 10 minutes, spanning across 5 to 6 days. Now, why did it take 6 days, you ask? Simply put, getting people to do Palace of the Dead was like pulling teeth. And when people did join, wow, was it a mixed bag. But we'll get to that in a bit. What I'll be talking about is the process, what you do in Palace of the Dead, and what were my goals in Palace of the Dead. I will talk about my arduous journey and if it was worth it. So sit back and enjoy my experience in Palace of the Dead. Now back to the mixed bag that is the player base. I know that I am late to the party, like almost 10 years too late, but I really felt it here. That's one of the reasons why my name is Late Bloomer. It's because I started playing console games pretty late in life, and now I'm basically playing catch up. I can tell you this, I wish I had played this game when it first came out. Maybe I would have been able to experience Palace of the Dead the way it was intended to, because I'm pretty sure the way that we did it was all wrong. So let's talk about the process and what I learned through my time in Palace of the Dead. And hey, if I did anything wrong, let me know in the comments section. I'd love to know the proper way to do it. So let's get into this. So the first thing we do is we come to South Shroud and Gridania. Here we select the menu and we enter the Palace of the Dead. Now what I didn't know is that you have to clear a slot every single time you start. So that what it means is that if you go in with a party and you don't finish with that party, when you try to start up again, you have to reset the slot and you gotta make sure that everyone else does the same. Otherwise you'll get rejected and then you have to go back in and reslot. And every time someone doesn't clear and you try to start, it will reject and you'll have to go back in and start. That was crazy. It was very hectic. And no one really understood what was going on, and then eventually you would have to just ask, what's going on? Did everyone clear? Is everyone clear? Are we good to go? Now on to the dungeon. Earlier in the video you could see that I was in the lower levels of 1 through 50 of the Palace of the Dead. And that's where our journey begins. You have to make it to level 50 before you meet the threshold that allows you to start from level 51 to 100 in following playthroughs. Which is a good thing, because apparently 50 through 100 are the best levels to level up your character in Etherpool. Which brings me to the reason I'm here. Etherpool. Etherpool is what you level up to gain more power to your weapons and armor in the Palace of the Dead. Your weapon starts off in a Pajali status and moves into the Kina status around 60 plus in Etherpool level. This is also you'll be strong enough to take on the enemies the further you get. But there is also an optional reason to do this, which brings me to the next reason I'm here. The weapons. One thing you need to know about me is that I'm into glamour, and I would dare say it has blocked me on many occasions from completing the main story quest. I will MSQ for a little while, get distracted, and then we'll be neck deep into some sort of glamour grind for my character. I have tried to do the A Realm Reborn relic quest and ended up throwing in the towel, right around the time you get to the books. Man, F those books. I can't stand them. But I need weapons, a weapon for my glamour. So what to do? And that's when I remember the Palace of the Dead. I started this journey with my paladin once upon a time, and it didn't seem so bad. Getting to 30 and acquiring the Pajali weapon felt very doable. How hard could it be to get the Kinna version for my gunbreaker? How I regret those words to this day. It's one thing to get to 30, but getting to 90 made me feel like I had missed a birthday. I mentioned before that trying to get people to do Palace of the Dead was like pulling teeth. Everyone and their mama has probably done everything you can do in Palace of the Dead, and for whatever reason, people just wanted to go their separate ways as soon as we got in there. Now color me confused, but aren't we supposed to move together as a unit? Isn't this a dungeon? I for the life of me did not know what the heck was going on. Then people would get frustrated with the group and leave. I don't know if it was me who they were frustrated with, or who had the problem with, or if it was somebody else. All I know is someone would leave, and guess what? We had to start all over again. If you're thinking I'm just complaining at this point, you would be correct. I cannot express the level of frustration that I felt at this point, because leveling up almost seemed to become impossible, and there were 2 nights in a row that right after the party would fall apart, I would just log out and call it a night. I'm all for grinding, but not at the risk of my long-term sanity. But why couldn't I level up? How do you level up? Well, if you are new to the Palace of the Dead like I was, let me explain. To level up, you have to collect silver chests that may or may not raise your Etherpool level. You have both armor and weapon Etherpool levels, and they don't level up simultaneously, which means most of the time they are uneven. Also, the higher your ether pool level, the less chance you get of your level going up. Another way to say it is that the RNG will not be on your side. Here's an example. Your ether pool levels are now around 80, but you're on levels 51 through 60 and then 61 through 70. You're on your way to 80 and have opened up at least 10 silver chests, and guess what? No level ups. Now this I can see is reasonable and part of the process, but when you have just gone through 30 levels and now you're about to start being able to open up levels 80 through 100 chests, someone leaves. Ugh, it's frustrating.
You think you can do this to me?
And that's when Palace of the Dead became arduous. Those last 20 levels of Ether Pool were the worst experience I've had in Final Fantasy XIV aside from A Realm Reborn itself. They both can go to the Shadow Realm. But this isn't to say it was all bad. My first and last groups were both amazing and I owe them for keeping me going. Which brings me to the biggest part of the video, communication. Communication is key in Final Fantasy XIV, and I slowly began to realize that if I didn't communicate, most likely no one else would. I also realized the more I communicated, the more clear it became about how different a page everyone was on. From then on, the moment I started a party and everyone had joined, I asked what everyone's purpose was. I then asked what everyone's expectation was, and then proceeded to make sure everyone was in alignment. I realized that even though this is an MMO, people still seem to lack desire to communicate or the ability to, and I was done with that. I wanted to make sure that everyone was together. I told them to point out anything that I was doing wrong. I didn't want to be the reason that anyone left, and I also wanted people to know that they could communicate. To anybody who was offended by the ability to communicate, comment, please understand that I am very much a beginner in this game, and this is actually my first MMORPG. So every experience I have in this game is new and a first, and I am coming to conclusions and judgments about the community and the game based on this experience. Now all I have heard is about how amazing the game is and how amazing and accepting and patient the community is to newcomers and vets alike. I can vouch and say for the most part this has been true, but Palace of the Dead made me begin to question that. I'm not saying that the community has to be perfect or that it's the community's responsibility to ensure that I have an enjoyable experience, but I will say that I can't recommend this game to people if this is the experience they can hope to see. The community has to understand that all newcomers haven't been playing MMOs their whole life, and if you want the community to grow, realize that some will be coming in brand new. Take the influx of players we're going to be having coming in from Xbox. All they have heard is that WoW is better. Please, for the love of Heidelin, prove them wrong. With that, I would like to shout out Iskra Mudjunks, Midnight Snacks, Alice Arak for being an amazing team and sticking with me to the end. You're the good I hear so much about. Oh, and before I forget, this is for all those veterans who rush through the final main story quest boss, when new players have never done it and essentially missed the true experience, instead getting to watch the backs of vets running from point to point. Slow the freak down. Remember just for a second the first time you played A Realm Reborn, and realize that it's super anticlimactic to get rushed because vets are just in it for the dailies. Come on, do better.
Shut up, Ralph! Shut up!
And that ends the rant portion of my video. Final Fantasy XIV has truly been an experience at this point. Whether for the better or for the worse, it is still up for debate. But what I will say is that I love Final Fantasy, and I love this game, and I'm looking forward to the day I'm all caught up. Until the day I can play with a new expansion at the same time as vets and experience the journey together. So far the story has been amazing, and the gameplay incredible, except for a few mechanics that I still for the life of me can't comprehend. If anyone, especially veterans, would like to comment or react to this video, you are more than welcome to. I would really like to hear feedback from the vets such as Work to Game, Zeppla, or even Desperus. All vets that I respect and would be willing to hear out, especially if I'm wrong in my perspective. So after all is said and done, you turn in your levels of Ether Pool for Ether Pool grips. Each grip is worth 10 Ether Pool, so 30 for 3 grips. You turn those in for a Pajali weapon that you can now wear outside of the Palace of the Dead, if you so choose. Then if you want to get the Kina version, you will trade 60 Ether Pool for 6 grips. You can then turn in both of your Pajali weapon and the 6 grips in exchange for the Kina weapon. So 6 days and 90 Ether Pool levels later, I now have my weapon and my glamour. So was it worth it? Yes and no. I'm really glad I have a glamour. I mean, just look at it. But will I ever go out of my way to do it again? Probably not. So now you're probably asking, Late Bloomer, why are you doing it? It doesn't seem like MMOs are your cup of tea. And you're probably right. But this game has been gassed up so long when it comes to Heaven's Ward and Shadowbringers that as a Final Fantasy fan I had to find out for myself. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, leave a dislike. If you did, like, subscribe, even comment. This is Late Bloomer. Until the next time, peace out.